Hey, welcome back to Formidable Fabrications. So today is the day that we start the concrete on the garage. So we have the insulation ready, and the garage has all been leveled out, 3 inches all the way around for the insulation, and the concrete will be almost up to the top of that. So since we put it up, we have a bathroom plumbed in. So there's a stack line. There's going to be another bathroom upstairs right around this area. We have a sink and a toilet, and then this area right here will be framed in for a bathroom. Back there will be the boiler for the heated floors, and then we'll have the manifold for the heated floors in this area over here. So the plan for this, not this. So the plan around here is the contractor wants to dig down a little bit to kind of create a footer. His main concern is that the concrete sitting on top of the insulation, there's a chance that water could get in between and expand when it freezes. So the idea is to dig like a footer around there that's a little deeper, so the water just can't come in straight into the straight under the concrete. And then the other thing that we're going to do is where the garage door opening is, he wants to dig like a, I don't know, I guess like a 8-inch trench or something, about 2 to 3 feet deep down this area to create like a footer for the garage door opening. So when I back in a large truck, all the weight just isn't on the lip of the floor there. There's actually like a footer. So not a bad idea really. So that's what they're coming in to do today. They're going to dig that out. I guess dig some of this or all of it, put down the insulation around here. We're just going to do around the outside. So it's like a hybrid insulation system. So we don't need to necessarily do the middle. So from what I've been reading, most of the heat loss is right in this area around here. So we're just going to put the insulation in there, and then the middle should be fine. So I didn't actually film them putting down all the plastic and digging the footers and everything. Ended up being 2 days that they actually went out here to do everything that they needed to do. So I did actually film the laying down of the tube. So I went with a company called Radiantech, radiantech.com. So what they did is they provided me with all of the necessary components, such as all the PEX piping, the manifolds, and once I got all that, I was able to send them a diagram of how the garage is laid out, and they sent me back a diagram of my garage with the proper technique on how to lay down the PEX piping. So as you'll see, we lay it down in a circular configuration. So it starts at the manifold, goes around to the other side of the garage, or it runs back to front, and then it goes back to the manifold. And then the next piece of piping will run down the side along the front, and it'll go back and forth, front to back, next to the first loop. And we keep doing that until we get back to the pipe comes down. Instead of going across the front, it just turns and goes right back and does the loops again. Very interesting layout. Supposedly it's the most effective heat dissipation in the cement slab. So you can see my wife has the roll of PEX, and she's actually taking it onto the driveway because we found that the PEX was in a roll and it kept on to roll back on itself. So we had to like stretch all 250 feet out across the driveway so we could have a nice straight line. So you'll see me going in and out of the garage, helping her unroll this so we can bring the roll back in, but like so it's straight. So that was the biggest hurdle. And you can see my shirt is soaked because it was like 90 some degrees. And they were coming to do the concrete the next day. I think this was a Sunday we did this. They were coming Monday to pour the concrete. So we had to like hurry up and get all this put in so they could do it the very next day. In the meantime, it's 95 degrees out and we had fans running. That's why I didn't record any sound, just because the fan would have just took over any sound that was actually going on. So you can see the hot water loops that I was talking about. You have your hot water supply that goes into loop 1, then goes back along the cold water supply to be reheated. And then you have loop 2, loop 3, and then there will be a 4th loop in there that's just not shown yet. So each one of those loops comes straight off the manifold. So each one has its own heat essentially. So I can literally turn off one of the loops if I wanted to. And if one of the loops is getting hotter than the other, I can turn it down a little bit so I have even heat all across the floor. So right now we're working on the 4th loop, which is the last loop of the system. And they're supposed to be about 200 foot per loop, but this one ended up being a little bit shorter, I think like 150 foot, which means it will be hotter. That part of the floor will be hotter than the rest of the floor, which is fine because we can use the manifold to actually turn it down. So we'll just take one of the valves of the manifold and turn it down, and to keep it consistent throughout the floor. So one of the other things that we had to do was put the elbows on the PEX piping. So as the PEX piping went into the concrete, there wasn't any sharp edges. So the PEX was a very nice swooping angle without the concrete pushing against it of any sort. So we had to do that for the hot lines and the cold return lines as well. All right, so all the PEX is now run through the conduit, and right now I'm currently hooking it up to the manifold. So the kit came with compression fittings, which actually are really good fittings. So, and I'll tell you why. There's a pressure gauge on the manifold. You can't see because it's behind the lines right now. It's kind of like right in front of my face. Anyway, before they poured the concrete, once all the lines were hooked up, I put 60 psi of air in the system, and it actually held for the whole time the concrete was being put in, and actually left it go for about a month in there. My thought was to keep as much pressure on the lines so the concrete didn't crush the lines at all, and B, just to make sure that there wasn't any leaks. So it literally held 60 psi for probably maybe 2 months. And that was last summer. So it's this summer now, and I have not hooked the water up. That's actually my plan for this summer, is to hook the hot water system up to it. But I did let some of the air out, and right now it's sitting at 20 psi, and that's where it's been for about the past, 8 months or so. So either way, I'll put a link in the description. Radiant Tech. I think the whole kit was, I want to say $800, I think, or maybe it was $1,200. I don't remember, but it seemed pretty reasonably priced. The only thing I had to do was buy the conduit elbows, and I think that was about it. And the conduit elbows and any straps that I used to hold the PEX to the 2x4s. But other than that, that was it. So it looks like a mess right now, only because one of the mistakes I made was when I bought the manifold setup. As you can see, the lines are coming straight out of the manifold instead of straight down. So when the plumber comes in to hook everything up, they're just going to have to cut those fittings off and put ones that go straight instead of a 90-degree angle. And then this whole setup will not look messy at all. It'll just be the lines going straight from the concrete up to the manifold with no loops or anything. So anyway, that's the whole video. I will have one coming out for the concrete, but if you're thinking about doing a heated floor, then I would definitely recommend using this kit. And if you're going to pour concrete, put the kit in. Even if you never use it, it's there. And if you decide to use it in the future, it's easy to hook up. So, all right. Thanks again. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. It really helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll get right back to you. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next video.